Welcome to Debriefing in Larp. I am Grethe.
And I'm Karete. I've been LARPing for several years. What I really do is study psychology, but I also part-time work for a company. We create larps and other co-creative or facilitation tools that can be used in education or at museums or libraries or other cool stuff. Yeah.
Yes, I'm a LARP designer. I've designed both black box games and fantasy games and have been teaching here at the summer school for the last 4 years. And I'm very excited about debriefing and talking about that. This is a field in motion, and we have prepared this talk and other resources that you will get later on based on different LARPers and organizers' experiences on debriefing. Because we haven't done that much research. Does it really work? Yes, we think it works. So today we are going to say what is debriefing in LARP and why is it relevant and how can we do it and do some practical advice. And as I mentioned, it's in motion, so I'm really excited to work with Karete on this as a psychologist to be. Mm-hmm. She might have I think she has some useful insights on the topic, and it's very good to have a new angle to this.
Good. Mm-hmm. So the new angle, or one angle is the brain. Or when we LARP with our bodies, we bring our bodies to the LARP, and then we do stuff with it. So when we talk about LARP, and when we also talk about debriefing, it might make sense to talk about our bodies. And the one part of our body that sort of deals with what we do and how we interact with each other is the brain. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the brain, also because I think it is super awesome. And the brain is both incredibly complicated and smart. It's a really good tool. I'm glad we have it, but it's also very, very stupid. And it can very easily get confused about what we are actually doing. And I think that most of the people who have LARPed have at some point felt this confusion or felt being a little bit out of place, so that they don't really understand what's going on. So maybe talking about debriefing and doing debriefing could be a way to help your brain not be that confused. So this is a brain. This is my brain. Or it's actually right now it's the bottom of my brain. We see it this way, downwards like this. And so you can see my jawline here and my spinal cord and some blood veins, the white dots. And I'm gonna play this like a movie almost. So we're moving upwards like this. So you can see some brain appearing here and some eyes with nerves going from the eyes, and some more brain that looks different from the other parts of the brain. And also some cavities where we have spinal fluid, very interesting. And now we're moving towards the top of the brain, and it will slowly disintegrate into nothing in this video, so I'll just try to stop it. Now I'm going to talk about two different parts of the brain that I think might be relevant for LARPing and debriefing, because the brain has evolved and changed in layers. So throughout the evolution of human beings, it has constantly changed in the size and in the structures and in the connections between all these structures. And these changes has happened on top of and around each other. You could see when we watched the movie that there were lots of stuff happening sort of everywhere. And I think that there are two parts of the brain that are important. And one part is the one part that we share with all animals. The one part that is actually keeping us alive, that regulates our heartbeats and our breathing. And it also deals with our reflexes. Some of you might have heard of the fight, flight, freeze response to danger. Or if you put a hand on a hot stove and you remove it super quickly, and then just a little bit after you start realizing that, yeah, I moved my hand because the stove was hot. And these are all things that are happening unconsciously. And the part of your brain that does this is like in the middle here at the core of the brain, and we could easily, as an easy way of remembering it, we could call it the reptile brain, because we all have this part of the brain. And it's like a control center, so all your sensory information goes to this control center, and then the control center goes like, okay, visual information, you go here, auditory information, you go here, and so on. And also very interesting, this structure is very, very heavily linked together with structures that deals with our emotions, like our basic emotions, like being happy or sad or angry or scared. And it's very good that these things are unconscious and happens without me actually thinking a lot about it. Like if we walk outside in the forest and all of a sudden we see something that looks like a snake, it's very good to just jump to the side, and then after you can look at it and go like, oh no, it wasn't a snake, it was part of a tree or something. But it would be worse if it was the other way around. So this is like how our reptile brain works. And then we have the other part, which is here, the front. This is the frontal part of the brain. And evolutionary speaking, it's a lot newer and younger and cooler than the reptile brain. And this is sort of what separates us from a lot of other animals, because they don't have these very highly evolved frontal lobes of the brain. And what this part does is be the rational part of the brain, the conscious part of the brain. This is where you decide your actions. So if I have a choice, this part of the brain is like, okay, what are your past experiences? What are your future goals? What do you want to achieve? You should do this or this. And it's what keeps us inside like socially acceptable norms, usually. I mean, we do strange things sometimes, but that's like the basic function of this part of the brain. And what I think is interesting is that the emotions and the reflexes that are happening in the reptile brain, they are sent here. And then this part of the brain is supposed to modify these emotions so that they fit with what is socially acceptable in the group, and also to fit with your identity, like who you are, who you see yourself as, and who you want to be. Is it clear, the distinction between the two? Because the thing is that the reptile brain is not LARPing. The reptile brain is a little bit like Tom Hanks in the dungeon that we've learned about earlier, that he's like running around and believes that everything that is happening to his character is happening for real. This is the reptile brain. The reptile brain is trying to survive in a potentially dangerous environment. And I'm not really sure if the frontal lobes really get that you're LARPing either, or pretending, but it's at least a bit smarter at this than the reptile brain. So this makes it really hard for these two parts to communicate, right? Because they're like not on the same level. One is going like, I'm just surviving. The other one is going, I think I'm LARPing. So an example could be that I'm really close to Grethe. We are friends in the real world. But then we play Snapphane. And Grethe is actually Captain Wikström. And right now she's pointing a gun at me and she's forcing me to sign this confession. And this makes me super scared, and my reptile brain goes like, scared, 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 do whatever she tells you to do. This is very uncomfortable, so I sign the confession. And then my frontal brain is like, but you know, Grethe, she's your friend. How come this is happening? Why are you scared of her, and why is she doing these things? It doesn't really make sense. So I think that sometimes players need help to make sort of the reptile brain and the frontal brain talk together and communicate and understand each other. So the player experiences, they need to be reframed in the context of the LARP, which means that my brain would, after a little while, maybe go like, oh yeah, but we're in a LARP and Grethe is playing a character. And her character is limited to this LARP and to this fiction. And so now that we're out of the LARP, we're not LARPing anymore. I can see that I know that this is Grethe that I know, and she's smiling, which is good, so I'm not scared anymore, and we're talking a little bit, and then it sort of readjusts. We'll take questions later, so yes. And this reframing process, it can be really easy or super hard, and it can take a couple of minutes or maybe weeks, depending on the players and the LARPs. And this is totally normal. I think it's very important for you as both LARPers and as LARP organizers that you know that every player is different. So it's normal to feel out of place and weird, and it's also normal to not feel out of place and weird.
And that's actually a good thing to remind your players when you start a debrief, that people react very differently, and your reaction can be completely different after a different LARP. So when we create LARPs, we should empower our players so that they can take care of themselves. And that is before the LARP, and during the LARP, and after the LARP. And we're mostly going to talk about after the LARP here. So then it's your job as an organizer to give them tools to help them facilitate this reframing. And it's not so that every LARP needs a structured debrief, or that every player needs a debriefing. But if you decide to do a structured debrief, make it opt out and not opt in, then it's easier to get more people into the debrief. And also because LARPing is relational, something you do in relationships with others, just like you do here at the summer school. And you're all here. You may not interact with absolutely everyone who's here, but you have been doing something together, and it's valuable that you digest and reframe the experience together. And a trick for ensuring that your players will stay for the debrief and be available to opt in is that you can choose a venue and that's a bit out of normal tracks and get the transport back the day after the LARP has ended. So you can have like a gathering, a dinner, or a party as well after the structured debrief. And if you don't have a structured debrief, some type of unstructured player-initiated debrief will happen anyway. People will start just talking to each other just right after the LARP, or they will start thinking for themselves. They will go online and write stuff or meet up and discuss it. And it's a good thing that you, as an organizer and facilitator, give them some tools. You are shaping their experience. So, a bit about what it's not.
Yes. I think that's also important to mention, that debriefing is not the end of a process. So that means that if you have a debrief and you finish the debrief, it's not like the LARP and the experiences from the LARP stop existing for the players. They will of course go home and they will continue talking to each other or forming new relationships or discussing the LARP. And the LARP will like live on in a way that you cannot control, and this is important to acknowledge also as an organizer. And the debriefing is not an evaluation of the LARP. The players may come and go like, oh my god, it's the best LARP ever, or I hated this LARP. But this debriefing is not so much about an evaluation, it's more about the player experiences. Maybe you could ask them, okay, if you think it was the best LARP ever, what did you experience during the LARP? What's the reason why you think it's the best LARP you've ever played, or the worst one? Debriefing is not the organizers sitting on their pedestal, like telling all the players what really happened in the LARP, and this is something you all experienced, because they might not have experienced that at all. And the debriefing is not about the organizers either, it's about the players. And important, the debriefing is not professional healthcare. And even though I, in a year, hopefully have a license, if I organize a LARP and there is a need for something, I am not going to be that person because I've organized the LARP and I'm exhausted and I have this weird relationship with all my players, so I'm not going to do that. So leave it to someone who can take care of it in a proper way. And it's also important here to acknowledge that we humans tend to have this idea that if you experience something strong, like an emotionally strong experience, it helps you to talk about it. This seems like very intuitively right, but it's not always true. If your players don't want to talk about something, you should not force them to do that. That's why it should always be also opt-out. They can decide that this exercise is not for me. I don't feel like doing this.
And now we have a pretty nice sentence there that Karete wrote when we were working on this, and we're not quite sure if we might have borrowed it from someone else, but that's the thing we do. We borrow stuff from each other and learn stuff and share them. So a structured debrief is transitioning from the character in the fiction to the player in the real life. And some small ways of doing that, I'm just going to mention some examples, and then we're going to do some exercises afterwards as well, is like if you've been to a black box LARP with tape on the floor, taking off the tape and kind of destroying the rooms you had in there could be a nice way to break up that world. It could be taking off your name tag if you had that as a character, and also you could think about changing the light and the moods in the room you were in, or just going to another room where you were. And as well, you could also use music. It's very common to have a theme song with a LARP, and to start the LARP and end the LARP with the same song, so that you know this song is about 2-3 minutes, and after that we have ended this magic circle in a way. So now we're going over to toolbox of exercises.
Yes, because important. Different players have different needs for different exercises at different times after different LARPs, which makes everything like super complicated. And how could you possibly cater to all this? And it might be an impossible task. But a trick is to like look at it as a toolbox that you have with a lot of exercises, where you can pick and choose the ones that you think will fit your player needs after the LARP. And they might have different needs. They might have individual needs, like I consider myself quite independent and valuable, and I stand up for myself. But during Snapphane, when Grethe was pointing the gun and yelling at me, I was like, oh, and maybe I actually also found it a little bit more easy to just do whatever she told me to do. And does that mean that I, at some level, enjoy people telling me what to do? Is that more comfortable? Why is it like that? Maybe I need to contemplate all these questions by myself. Or the needs could be relational, like you playing Captain Wikström and me suddenly being scared of you, and then we have to talk a little bit about it and sort of renegotiate our friendship, or find out like this was the LARP and this is the real life. And then there might be collective needs, like the whole player group, such as when you played the Family Anderson, you could talk about what was the dynamics in the group like? How come, or what did we create that enabled us to like scream at each other or never agree on how to divide the inheritance? And how did we work as a group? So it's difficult, but we think that you should have, this should be like a conscious choice how you decide to do the debrief. Or if you decide to do a debrief, there should be some thought behind it based on what you think your players will have experienced. So we're gonna try out some exercises quite soon. First, one rule, which is quite nice. It's to always talk about your character in third person. Jakob already mentioned this, but if Grethe is talking about her experience, it will be Captain Wikström did this, and I as a player experienced blah blah blah, like that. And when we do the exercises, we would like you to pick a character, or from one of the LARPs that you've played so far at the summer school. It's not really important which one you choose, or if you all choose the same. It's all only for demonstrational purposes for you. And please remember that you can change around all the exercises. You can, even though in our big group, you can choose to divide them into smaller groups or pairs or whatever. We're just giving you the framework. So one exercise or nice tool to give your players is to divide them into pairs that we call debrief buddies. And this is a way for your players to have someone that they know that they can go to and talk to and check in with. And you can do this also before the LARP starts. Like when you played Snapphane, maybe you could have one person that was pro-government pairing up with one person that was pro-partisan, and then they could play the LARP and they would play two quite different experiences, and then they could talk together afterwards, and that could be really interesting to listen to how your friend experienced it.
And then we have the runda that all of you have experienced in the afternoons, when you have this circle of debrief and one person speaks at a time and gets a limited amount of time, but in that time you have the possibility to speak, and the other around you will listen to you and see you. And it's also important that the others don't pass judgment on what you do or say during that. It's an open space where you can say what you want. But if you're a LARP designer and you are afraid that the first voice, the first person that starts to speak in the runda will very much influence the other in that circle, and then not give them time and space to think for themselves, you could start the runda by saying, everyone, just please take this note and write down for yourself what is your immediate reactions and feelings now, just right after the LARP. So they have time to make up their own mind and not be influenced by the others. That could be a good advice. Yes.
Yes.
Up.
So now we're going to try out some stuff. When I tell you to, I would like you to get up from your seats and start, not yet, when I tell you to, start walking around in the room. Just use the space, don't go down the stairs, but use the space up here. And I will talk to you and give you some instructions. And whenever you hear a bell sound, please pair up with the person that is closest to you, and I will give you some further instructions. Okay?
Magic.
Please get up. And then we start walking around. Because when you play a LARP and you play a character, some players like to change their body language. Like maybe they played a younger or an older character than themselves. Maybe their character had a limp or something else. So during a debrief session, it can be quite nice to sort of regain the control of your body. So you can talk your players through an exercise like this, where you tell them to sort of recognize their body and how they usually move, how they put their feet, how their arms are swinging or not, how their head is located on top of their spine. And that can be quite useful and peaceful also for the players. Hands back. Please pair up. And if you're missing a partner, raise your hand. Yes, good. This is a very convenient thing. Like always be ready as an organizer in case you have an uneven number of players. Maybe you have to step in, or maybe you will make a trio of players or something. But just be ready for that. Now, this is a very easy task. I would like you to greet each other, say hello to each other, and introduce yourself with your real name. Thank you. And now please continue walking. Without each other. Without each other, yes. Say goodbye to your partner. Now pair back up with a new partner. Perfect. So, remember that we're doing this for demonstrational purposes now, so I will give you absolutely no time at all, almost, to answer these questions, but I just want you to hear them. I want you to think about this and tell your partner, in what ways are you and your character different? Are there anything that you would like to take with you from your character? No, absolutely not time at all. please switch. Don't start walking, but just like switch so the other person gets to answer as well. It is also very important to control when you're facilitating. Thank you. Please continue walking. Now pair up again. Everyone's got a partner? So, new question. In what ways are you and your characters similar? And is there anything that you would actually want to leave behind? Now switch so the other person gets to answer as well.
Nice.
Thank you.
So, I would like you to form a circle in this area, please.
Please give your players a lot more time.
Definitely. And now you've experienced that, so you know that they need a little bit of time.
Yes.
A nice thing to do in a circle like this, and that could be the entire LARP or maybe the core group that LARP with each other, is to remove a piece of your character by, for instance, stepping one person in the circle at the time and removing a piece of costume or a jewelry or maybe a magic wand if you were at the Harry Potter inspired LARP, and leave it here and then step back. And then Karete will show you another exercise, because you could at the same time say one word and share something with the rest of the group that the group will hear. And it's good for the group to see and hear different needs.
Relief.
Yes, so this could be a nice sharing circle. And now we're doing a fruit salad.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
This is excellent initiative.
Yes, very good.
We are afraid that if everyone gets to do it, then we will spend the rest of the workshop doing it. Thank you for sharing.
And Nina and Gabriel will be angry at us for you being even more late.
Yes.
So
another circle exercise. It's stupidly enough in the region I think called the fruit salad. I don't really know why. This is a really good way to let every player see who else has had sort of the same experience as I have. So you as a facilitator, you prepare some questions. It can be, for instance, I betrayed a friend during the LARP. And the players who feel like, yes, my character actually did that, they will step into the circle. And then if there are some more, yes, oh, there was another one that was good, so we can switch places around. And this way I know that, okay, Grethe also feels that her character betrayed a friend. So I will go to her after and I will talk to her about her experience and my experience. So we can practice this in a really strange way by saying, everyone who is wearing something blue today, please change places.
You were just
guys.
above it.
And now this was really interesting because now we have two people and they know we are in the not wearing anything blue group, which is super exciting, and the rest of us are in this we are wearing something blue group, and we can all go talk together about these experiences. Yes.
And then we're going to do opinion lines. I would like you, Karete, to go to the end of the hall.
I will run down.
And Karete is representing a character that felt really brave during the LARP. And if your character 100% agree with that, you go as close to Karete as you'd like, and then I will be at the end at 100% disagreeing with that statement. So put yourself on the line where your character can rely on that. Brave. And if you agree, go to Karete, and disagree over here.
And it's a continuum, so you can stand anywhere. You can also stand in the middle if you have like half brave.
Well, you are the bravest group so far.
And you can stand like this in a line, or you can stand like in groups, or I don't know, it depends. But let your players take a look at this. Look at each other, see who has different places, because now you know people experience different things in a LARP, and maybe as a facilitator, if you want to, you can ask some people like, so why don't you think your character was brave, or why do you think your character was brave? And then you could, if they want to, they can share, and you could also facilitate the discussion based on what they are saying, which is good. Is it okay if we do the questions later? Yes, thank you.
And now over to the lounge area for a meditation.
So a very nice way to both let your players have a moment for themselves, where they can think about and contemplate whatever they want to. This is also a really nice way to like transport them out of the fiction and into the real world. And it's doing a guided, we call it a guided meditation, which means that you want your players to relax, and you will say something. You will have prepared a text for them that you will read. And it could be anything from what I'm going to do really shortly and quickly, like a relaxation thing, or it could be in line with the fiction, where you could talk about maybe what happened to the character, or make them reflect about what happened to the character, or anything. It's up to you. But I would like you to close your eyes and sit down in a way that feels comfortable for you. And then I would like you to take a deep breath in and out. And as you breathe out and continue breathing, I would like you to feel that you have this big ball of warmth in your stomach, and it's spreading out almost like a sun into your chest and to your shoulders, and the warmth travels further on down your arms to your wrists and to your fingers, and you can almost feel your fingers tingling a little bit. The warmth also spreads down through your stomach and your hips, down your legs, to the knees, to the ankles, and all the way out to your toes. And your toes are tingling a little bit too. It's nice. And then the warmth travels even further upwards, up through your neck, into your head. And behind your eyelids, there is now darkness, with a few spots of light forming. And when I tell you to, you can open your eyes again, and then you will be at the Larpwriter Summer School at Grethe. Please open your eyes. So this way the players are of course free to not pay attention to what you're saying at all and think of something completely different. Or it might be nice for them to get this time for themselves to relax. They might be super stressed or tired after LARPing, depending. So.
And it could be a good setting for an inner reflection.
Yes.
Like the questions Karete asked when we had the mingling conversations. Instead of telling it to someone else, you reflect on that upon yourself. And it creates a bit different experience. So, where are we now in our program?
We are at the buffet.
We are at the buffet! Yay!
So.
Here it is. We would like to divide you in two. We're going to do a buffet of exercises, and this is a way you can cater to different needs during a structured debrief. So usually we just divide it in the middle here somewhere. If you go with Karete, she will explain for you. So, and you were very lucky and got the I need to be silent corner room. Some people have that need during a debrief, and it's probably a very good idea to have a silent room a bit away from the more noisy room, where people can just come and relax and they don't really have to say anything. And because if you have that need, and a lot of people are blah, 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 blah around you, and all you want is a little bit of quiet, it could be really nice to have that. And then I would like you to go up, and we will leave this silent room, because now you've finished being silent and can go and do something else. We'll just walk over here. So, in this corner of the buffet, we have I need to create something, and it's a possibility for people to start writing something if they're already in that mode. Some people are that, writing a letter to their character, or maybe about the next day in the character's life, or paint something, or just maybe make a piece of music. And it's a space where you can be creative and do something. So we're going to leave this here. So, and then we're going to go across there to that corner that is available now, so we don't crash into Karete.
I will talk about my experience.
Yes. So, in this corner we have I need to talk about my experience, because quite a lot of LARPers are very talkative and like to talk about their experience, and just want to keep on doing that. But then you might need to think about, as an organizer, do you want this talk to be a bit more structured? Do you need a facilitator in that space so that not only the person with the loudest voice talk all the time, or maybe you want the conversations to be more focused? So that could be a good thought to have in the back of your head if you create such a space. Oops. And then we go straight over here. And this is the I need to hug someone place. And then you can go and get some hugs and be less afraid that people will reject it in a way. And it's good to have a space for that, because maybe you remember Jok talked about earlier today how she as a Finn would not really be into a snuggle puddle, but Petter as a Swede could be a lot more into that. And then this is a space where you can go and do that. So, there you go.
It doesn't say I need a hug.
You could shape it the way you want. It's like, we encourage you to do that. What do you think fits your LARP? Is it a better way of structuring things? So, then we're finished with the salad and you can sit down.
So when you say I need to create something, maybe can it also include talking about it after being silent?
That could be. Or you could go over there just to talk, or talk to create a story together.
You mean if you do 4 different circles?
Okay.
So, we need the Y part.
Yes, the Y part. Why do we do this? Why do we have a wonderful buffet? Like we did, we had a set time and frame for it, and we had different places you could go to. And then you give the players ability to choose for themselves and do what they need. And then you also show the players that not everyone has the same reactions as you. People have different needs. And also that at the beginning maybe you want to be silent, and then after a while you want to be talkative. Your needs change over time. So, a bit about educational LARPs.
Because when we talk about debriefing, it's also important to mention the kind of debriefing and afterwork that you need to do after you organize an educational LARP, or a LARP that you do in an educational setting where you want people to learn new skills or knowledge or whatever. And in this context, the LARP itself is like a third of the job, and then the rest of the job is actually facilitating the afterwork, working with the experiences that the players have had during the LARP and how they relate to sort of the theme of the LARP, or the learning goals, or whatever the reason is why you put them through this educational LARP. So it is a lot more than only the player debriefing. You try to sort of pull knowledge out of the individual sort of war stories and connect them to the theme. Like if we played Snaphane and Grethe tells us a war story.
My character really liked being powerful and having guns and being intimidating and threatening.
Yeah. So how does this experience relate to living in an occupied territory, for instance, or living under a military conflict, or being a refugee maybe, or how does it relate to human rights, or to racism, or to whatever, depending on what the theme was. You should try to use the exercises that we already did, and you change them around, and you use them in order to facilitate discussions between the players based on their experiences. It's very useful to do an opinion line, and you can ask the question or say like, all the things that happened in the LARP are true. This is exactly what it's like to flee from your home, for instance. And then if all the players go down to the totally agree part of the opinion line, your warning bells should start ringing, and you should go like, okay, maybe we had to sacrifice some of the plausibility in order to get playability, right? So they are not actually able to flee from their homes, which would take months during a 2-hour LARP, for instance. So there are lots of experiences that you can't really create in, for instance, a classroom setting, and it's very important that you make your players aware of this also. Just to check, yes, and important, do the LARP early. Because the LARP is a really powerful tool to create like mental hooks where the players can then attach information and things that they learn further out during the class year, for instance. It's like you do here at the Larpwriter Summer School. We try to make you LARP as much as possible early in the week, so that when we have our talks, we can keep referring to the experiences that you've had, and we believe that it's easier for you to understand what we're talking about when you have these experiences. Yes.
We're gonna skip practical today.
Yes, we are, and you will get the slides so you can read this and talk about this instead.
Because when you design a debrief for your LARP, as you hopefully will do pretty soon, what kind of experience do you want to design for your players? And it's also important to pay special attention to aggressor characters, and like soldiers or guards, because it can be quite hard to play that character, and they might have special needs. And on the other hand, those who were oppressed by aggressors might need to meet them and see them as real-life normal persons. And what is the theme of your LARP, or what type of relations are the most important thing in your LARP? Is it a couple LARP and most of the debrief should be those two players discussing that experience? Is it a family LARP, or different groups from different tribes or different houses in a magic school? Think about that. What would suit your LARP and your theme? And do you need to mix the groups with different fractions to get different pictures of it, like Karete mentioned earlier from Snaphane? Is that an important part? And then some fader input.
Yes, just trying to show you how the different design choices you make in the mixing desk can also be important to reflect on when you design a debrief. Like openness, for instance. If you design a LARP that has a lot of secret things going on, it means that there are things that your players cannot prepare for, which again means that they will be surprised at one or several points during the LARP. And less preparation might mean that this reframing from the reptile to the frontal brain is a bit more difficult because it happens spontaneously and the players just reacted to something and then they don't have the same amount of sort of reasoning that they would have if they were able to sit down with their co-players and discuss this before the lab. Then it would be a lot easier for your brain to like, yes, but we planned this already, so I know that we did this for the LARP itself. And also the character as mask fader, Jack would explain this as like the distance between the player and the character. And intuitively, you might think that if the character is thin, if there's almost no difference from the player to the character, it will be very easy to just step out of the character because it's almost you. Which is not true because if you have a thin character, the character it's not a mask. It is not an alibi. It is not a reason for why you did the things that you did. So it will be easier if you have a very different character and say like, no, but the character was like, she was a bus driver and she was 60 years old and she had 5 kids and that's why she did all the things that she did. It was because we are different and it's easier for your brain to separate these experiences. The pressure on players fader is something that you will learn about a bit later. But it could be nice to think about, for instance, if your players are sleep deprived or they haven't eaten properly for the last 24 hours, maybe you shouldn't have the debrief directly after the LARP. Let them relax a little bit, have something to eat, and then their energy levels will be much more stable and they will actually be ready to sort of participate in your debrief. And lastly, I'm going to mention quickly the communication style, the verbal and the physical end of the fader. Because, and this is a fun fact, the reptile brain, you cannot really talk to the reptile brain. The reptile brain is like a sensory station. So it depends on like how your body moves or what you see or smell or taste or touch. But your frontal brain is the part of the brain that you talk to. So if you have a non-verbal LARP, where your players, and even maybe a non-verbal workshop like for White Death that Nina told you about, maybe it would make sense to have like a non-verbal debrief, or maybe not. But maybe you need to have some exercises that will like slowly take your players from a non-verbal state and over to a more verbal state. I don't know if it makes sense, but I think this is super exciting because we don't talk a lot about it like that, but I think it could be cool to design for these experiences as well. Yes, and important. You as an organizer cannot control everything. Stuff will happen. Players will start talking about things that you hadn't expected them to talk about. So make sure that you have someone there you can talk to and discuss, like, oh, this, Grethe, this happened.
We have to do something.
We have to do something. What shall we do? And then you can try figure something out. It's you should expect that something unexpected will happen. Yes. Also very important because organizers tend to do this. Organizers tend to forget themselves or to downplay their needs. Like when the LARP is finished, they're like, oh, I need to throw out this garbage and I need to take off this tape and I need to get water to all my players. And they think that their own experience of what just happened is not important, which is totally wrong. So it would be nice to maybe agree on a time and a place where all the organizers will meet up. And you don't have to do a lot. It can be a short runda, or it can be like just giving each other like high fives. Woo! Very bad high fives. Very bad. And be excited and go like, yes, we did this. Oh, I'm super relieved. Although we fucked up a lot of things, it was okay. I'm proud we did this. and then you can meet up again later and actually evaluate the LARP. But it's good to remember that you're a part of a team, usually.
Yeah.
And you should spend time with each other and use this fact.
And decide that before you start the LARP, so you know that after the LARP, we have planned to meet up and do this. No, you do not need to go and fetch that toilet paper or more water or keys to people who can't get into their rooms or something. Now it's your time.
And then?
It's very important that you celebrate the achievement you've had and start building a community. It's fun to have a party or a gathering right after a LARP, and it's a good way to have people gather at the same place and have this informal debrief and talk to each other and get to know each other, and you can get some good feedback if you're interested in listening to that already then, because your players has a lot of things to give to, and they have ideas and can keep on continue the LARPs into places that you never really even imagined. So thank you for being here, and we would really like you to go out in the world and test and try out new techniques and find out what type of debriefing that works for the LARPs and experiences you're designing, and tell us about it.
Yes.
We want to hear what you can achieve.
Yes, we want to expand our own toolbox
Yes,
as well.
we do, definitely.
Thank you.